Hello and welcome to episode 90 of the Say Hey podcast, part of the Believe Podcast Network. I am Doug Hayes, aka Say Hey Doug. It is December 7th, 2022. Rob, got to get right into it, man. Giants do not get Aaron Judge. How are you doing?
Well, Doug, happy holidays to you, first of all.
Oh, thank you.
The most wonderful time of year, and joy and cheer and gay apparel, everything right now. Like, we're supposed to be in a good mood, and we're not in a good mood right now. Like, John Heyman yesterday, the ultimate Tom Brady pump fake that you could ever do to a whole fan base. And we all jumped on the slant, and man, we got burnt. Aaron Judge back to the Yankees. He is not a Giant, and neither is Arson Judge. We don't know who that is, but he was trending on Twitter yesterday, and it turns out he's not a Giant either.
We have so much to uncover. It's been a couple weeks since we've been on. I had to have a surgery a couple weeks ago, so I've been recovering, but doing good now. And, the funny thing is Rob and I were originally scheduled actually Monday to record, but then we were going to go last night because some stuff came up. And I think for the right reasons. I don't know if God himself intervened and was like, Doug and Rob, I need you to wait one more day. Because, 24 hours ago when we were supposed to be recording, Aaron Judge was still very much a free agent. The Yankees and the Giants are trying to persuade their guy and get him to come there. And so here we are Wednesday night. And I woke up, I think it happened about 12 hours ago, like 5 o'clock in the morning, our time, Pacific.
Yeah.
Because when I woke up at 6:30, I had notifications and breaking news that he was returning to New York. So, before we dive into things, go back to episode 85. Rob and I laid out the Aaron Judge dilemma, which, at the moment seems like maybe one of our better episodes because we were pessimistic from the start from, the Giants coming in and being able to pull him away from New York and how things went down. And, we listed our reasons why we thought that he was going to remain a Yankee. But at the end of the day, too, if we were wrong, and he did end up coming to San Francisco, we would have been more than happy with that. Giants finally get their superstar, someone they can build around, and that would have been cool. Doesn't happen. Initial thoughts on kind of how everything went down, and we'll get into it, of course, but what happened? What do you think happened?
Man, I think a lot happened, but I just don't think at the end of the day Aaron Judge ever wanted to be a Giant. That's what it ultimately boils down to, I think. And this is they got me. And I was right there with you as one of the most pessimistic dudes of all time about this actually going down. But the whole, coming out to San Francisco, the TMZ report, the hanging out with the team for it's like a 2-day tour of the city, and supposedly being out here for almost 2 weeks, and just it's almost like next level, plotting and maneuvering by Aaron Judge and his team to really convince the Yankees that he wanted to leave. And, I've never been, a GM or part of an ownership group trying to persuade the best player of anything to do anything. But you would think at some point they would have got tipped off that, okay, this guy doesn't really want to be a Giant. Like, so I think that's what happened. But like I said, it was so drawn out and convincing. Yeah, on Saturday on Coffee in the Cove, before any John Heyman tweets got going or any pump fakes, I said, I was like, you know what? I'm starting to believe he's going to be a Giant. I was buying it. And yeah, you talked about episode 85, we listed the reasons, all the reasons why he ain't coming. And I meant it when I said all that, but it was such good maneuvering by his team. They pulled me in, and I was in as of yesterday. Like, even before, that tweet by Heyman, I was kind of waiting for it. I'm like, he's going to be a Giant. Holy shit, he's going to be a Giant. And fuck, was I wrong?
I get what you're saying. I think over the last couple days, especially once the winter meetings got going, Sunday, Monday, whenever they officially started, you really started to see some momentum, at least reports of momentum happening. And uh, Judge flew out to San Diego yesterday. Apparently, we found out that it was to meet with the Padres, who, again, we've talked about teams lurking, coming out of nowhere. And eventually, like, the Padres ended up giving him the largest offer. But I think I will say this: I do realistically believe that it came down between the Yankees and Giants, and I think that it was, whatever, just leverage play. But we hear that the Giants offered 9 years, 360 million, which is 40 a year on average. That is a huge contract. Would have made him the highest paid, everyday player on average in baseball history. And just come to think of it, it was all just a huge leverage ploy, because I mean, he signed the exact same deal with the New York Yankees, and they upped the ante late throughout the night, and that's apparently what Judge wanted.
And it got out. Like that was the big thing. The Giants offer got
Leaked.
out.
Yep.
Nobody knows how. But I think once that happened, we should have known right there. We should have known right there. Okay, I don't think whether was Susan Slusser, Pavlovich, whoever, John Shea, whoever was. Susan Slusser, she's down there in San Diego, and she's, she had a pretty shitty tweet yesterday too. But I'm not going to pile on her. But yeah.
Who knows what happened to her?
Yeah,
because usually, like, Slusser's credible. We like her. I don't know what happened. I'm sure she'll come out and say something.
Yeah. But once it got out, that should tip all of us off right there.
Yeah, I mean, I was pessimistic about this whole thing happening anyways, until Heyman's 4 minutes of glory yesterday when it came out, and like, holy cow. And then kind of the backup tweet of Slusser saying there's rumblings going on, players are starting to think, you combine that with the Heyman tweet, and it's like, well, whether you like Heyman or not through the years, his credibility, his stuff, putting stuff out there, there's some merit to that. And I think now that we know what happened, we look at it and there was some negative merit to it, meaning maybe there was, but there was a reason. And I'm not a conspiracy theorist by any means, but my conspiracy is that this was put out on purpose. And yes. I think that this was a leverage ploy from Team Judge to get the Yankees to go, hey, we know you gave us 8 years already. Give us 9 and match that 40 a year that the Giants offered us, and you'll have a deal. And that's exactly what happened. Before all this got started, we hear Farhan and Greg Johnson come out and say, before things got started in the last few weeks, that the Giants won't be outbid. And I'm not saying that they were, and I'm not even throwing in, like, I will actually semi-excuse the Padres offer, even though it was more, and they actually did outbid the Giants. The dollars were there. The Giants and the Yankees had the exact same offer. But at the end of the day, this comes down to, and I really do think, and I'm sure when Judge has his press conference, which I'm going to assume is like tomorrow or Friday, announcing the deal with the Yankees, that his number one reason, it wasn't about coming home, which we laughed at this whole time, because that was a bunch of bull. Mm-hmm. But I really do think that the Yankee legacy had a gigantic effect on this. About 99's going to be retired in pinstripes someday, and he's going to go down as one of the all-time Yankees with those legendary players in their franchise. I really do think that was probably the whole plan the whole time.
Yeah, it's also, I think it's the money he's going to make on top of being a Yankee. The most marketable place in the world. There's a reason players like him who come up as a Yankee don't leave the Yankees, or if they do, it's after a long time. But it's the same reason. It's the same reason why players don't leave the Lakers. Don't leave the Celtics, the Cowboys, the 49ers, the Steelers, like all these big franchises.
Sure.
When you come up through and you have success, where do you have to go? Like, you're a made man. Like, you've got the marketability's there. You can't go any higher than that. So, yeah, I think at the end of the day, that's what it came down to. I mean, people, I don't think people really understand how much money he makes on top of the 40 million he's gonna be making every year as a Yankee. Holy crap! I mean, that guy's got more money than, I mean, he's four generations deep, now for funds for his family. So good for him. But you and I said in the beginning what the reasons why we didn't think he was going to leave, and I think that's what it boiled down to. Coming home was never a thing. Sorry.
Yeah, and we never bought into that, and I'm glad we didn't, because, and I respect people that had that reasoning, whatever, that's fine. But at the end of the day, this just, and it played out, before we get into our next point here, this just so played out a little more aggressively because of the magnitude of it. But it ended up kind of just being like Bryce Harper 2.0. I mean, the Giants had a gigantic offer out there for Bryce Harper. He ends up going to the Phillies for, I think, a little bit more money, but it wasn't much. Maybe another year, I think, was added on, if I remember correctly. And then, look, it's the same exact, the Yankees matched the Giants offer, and Judge says, okay, well, I'm staying there then. Like, what, which leads me into my next question, my next point, like, what more could the Giants have done? I mean, is this something where they could have, before the meeting started, said, hey, we're going to offer 10 years, $400 million. There's your 40-year, and we'll give you that extra year as a kicker. Even though actually year 9 seemed more like a kicker. And I think it kind of started off at year 8. That was kind of like the base, and then the Giants, and then eventually the Yankees got into that 9th year. What more could the Giants have done to lure him in? Was it maybe offer this a week ago?
I think maybe if they'd offered it a week ago, because as far as we've known, he's been around, California and the Bay Area now for a while. I know he was down in Tampa Bay for that Bucs Saints game the other night. But outside of that, I mean, we've had sources tell us that he's in the city, he's doing this, so he's been around. So maybe offer the a bigger deal, or maybe this exact same deal a week ago, and not let it get to the winter meetings where everybody is in such close proximity, where they can do what he did last night. Get there, sit down with the Yankees and say, okay, well, this is what I want. Here's what the Giants are offering. If you don't give me this, I'm going there. And then, of course, with Heyman's tweet kind of, getting the ball rolling on that, going, oh, fuck, he might actually leave. Maybe an earlier offer, or quite frankly, get a more consistent product on the field. The Giants have had one good year in the last 5 years. Granted, it was 107 wins, which is fantastic, but I think he understands, because I'm sure, I mean, despite the money and all that, it's all, he wants to win a World Series, and the Yankees are closer than the Giants. We know that, especially with him. So I not a whole lot more I think they could have done, because I think at the end of the day, he didn't want to be a Giant. I think I think his team did such a good job. I mean, that was convincing as shit, over the top maneuvering and tactics. They did a great job, but I think the Giants did pretty much everything they could, except for maybe offering earlier.
Well, and before I get to and you kind of just touched on it about what the Giants currently have, but was this maybe just something that never was happening? Because we saw a report come out earlier today that, and I forgot who it was, I want to give him credit, but again, I'm not even sure this is true, but it made its way around Twitter, that even when he got to the hotel in San Francisco a couple weeks ago, filmed hey, what are you doing here? Oh, I'm here for Thanksgiving, wink, wink. And was this was the decision already made several weeks ago? And this whole, because that tweet said, that was staged. This was all just a ploy to get the Yankees to up a year, up more money. That I actually do kind of want to hear more about. Who goes out of their way that much to stage something in San Francisco right when you get off a plane, you're in the airport or the BART station. I doubt he's in the BART station, but whatever. Yeah. Because that's where it looked like he was. But would someone really go that far out of the way to make this that much? And to me too, I don't know if that changes the way I feel about Aaron Judge. I don't know Aaron Judge, but he seems like a good, genuine dude. Loves the game of ball. He's a superstar, but he's, mostly a humble guy from what we see, what we hear. I don't know. That kind of goes against what his portrayal is to me of him. So I don't know. But what do you have any quick thoughts on that?
I don't know. I think it kind of comes back to he just he knew what he wanted. He had a number in his head, and he was willing to do whatever it took to go get it. So, like you and I, like we live pretty close to Linden and San Francisco. Like we're close. When I heard, okay, he's in San Francisco for Thanksgiving. No, he wasn't. Well, he'd be in Linden. You wouldn't fly into San Francisco. More than likely, you'd be flying into Sacramento if you were going to Linden to be with your family for Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
So when I heard that, I knew something was wrong there. So silly me, I thought, oh, he's meeting with the Giants. Okay, cool. I knew that. So that's what kind of got me going a little bit. I'm like, oh, but that was in the beginning, and it was the kind of the events that went after that that made me believe the Giants were, or that he was maybe serious about, signing with the Giants, because he was, like, again, he was out here a long time. But no, yeah, I mean, it's one of the most drawn out ploys, I think, in free agent history. And again, like he convinced me. Him and his team convinced me, and I was never on board until a couple days ago.
How much of an impact do you think the Giants' current roster has on not only just Aaron Judge not coming, but other free agents? Like we've seen through the years, and obviously like bigger sample size. I think like in the last 15 years, we've seen like Tommy LaStella, Aaron Rowan, and maybe that's it, get a 3-year deal like for everyday players from the Giants. Denard Span, yes. And it's like, yeah. Does the Giants' current roster, was that a big impact with, hey, like that's not enough for me to come here, even if, you guys are saying you're going to add more after you add me? And tie in also, did the Giants make a mistake not being aggressive with other guys while doing this Judge process as well? Because it feels like, I don't know, we're not like in the office. We don't hear what's going on in the war room, with the front office. Who knows if I'm sure the Giants, of course, were talking to other agents, other players, but it feels like from a public perspective that it was like Judge or nothing. And hey, we're going to get Judge and then we'll do things. Well, now that you don't have Judge, what? I mean, so back to my original point, how big of an impact did you think the roster had on Judge saying, I'm staying in New York?
I honestly don't think it had that big of an impact on him, because I think he never had any intention of leaving. So I mean, feel you. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, I'm sure the Giants did what they could when they thought he was interested. Yeah, we want to do this, and we've heard reports now the last day and a half about, well, before Judge signed with the Yankees, that not only Aaron Judge, they're looking to add Carlos Correa too, putting them together. Old Carlos Baerga put that out on his Instagram, and and he was the one who nailed Justin Verlander, so that seemed pretty credible. And I was thinking, well, that makes sense, because why would Judge sign here if it was just going to be him, And then Mitch Haniger goes down last night, but I mean that's not it's not a needle mover like that. But when I started hearing credible sources kind of saying, oh, it's going to be Judge and Correa and they're going to sign together, I was thinking, okay, well, that would be enough, I think, to get Judge to San Francisco. But just Judge, and then you don't mean to pile on the guys, but Jock Peterson, Wilmer Flores, Mitch Haniger, like that's not going to get the guy to San Francisco. I'm sorry, I don't care how much you love the Giants as a kid, or Rich Aurilia, or Barry Bonds. Like, go be Yankee and go be a legend. I'd do it too.
Yep. I agree. Well, I mean, still tying in Judge, but kind of moving on to the rest of this offseason. What happens next? I mean, obviously we're still seeing that the Giants are talking to Carlos Correa and his agent there, who is Scott Boras, of course, but they're involved in talks. And we said even during episode 85 of the Aaron Judge Dilemma episode that the Giants will be all in and talking with not only Judge, but everybody that's a big name. Well, Trey Turner's gone, Aaron Judge is gone, Jacob deGrom is gone. There are many big names that are already off the board. There are still some left, but it's starting to dwindle down day by day. What happens next for the Giants? Do they, try and bring back a Carlos Rodon somehow, whether it be 5, 6, 7 years, which I think how we feel about that. 5 was already a question mark for us. But also, like, I think this goes without saying. If they're gonna really try and bring in Carlos Correa, this may take 12 or 13 years. The dude's 28. He's coming off a good season with the Twins in that 1 year he was there. He's been relatively healthy the last 3 seasons. He's 28. Could be like a 12-year deal, that maybe 13, that takes Carlos Correa to get to San Francisco.
Yeah, it's gonna take every bit of that. I think, especially now you got Aaron Judge off the board. And yeah, if you want Carlos Correa, if you want to convince him to come in here and be, your next superstar, to be your next Buster Posey, Barry Bonds, whatever type of figure, whoever you want to compare him to, yeah, it's and as of right now, you have pretty much nobody else of consequence, that's gonna be flanking him in that lineup. Yeah, it's gonna take 12 years or around 330, 340. I mean, it's going to take something like that, something well into his 40s. And, I never really thought the Giants would go that route with any player because, years are so, they've always been more of a let's pay more, in a shorter window. So, but after losing out on Judge and seeing the reaction it's got, I mean, I'm not saying they're getting Carlos Correa, but I think they're going to offer him a pretty significant chunk of change. But I have zero optimism that they're going to sign him. I think
same thing we were talking about Judge. Like, what's there that's enticing here?
No, I mean, yeah, I mean, the Giants. Okay, they're they play in a nice ballpark with some pretty good fans. I mean, they have recent history of winning and stuff. And yeah, I mean, you can come be the face of the franchise, but a lot of players, I feel like if the offer is remotely close, I think if I'm Correa, I'd rather go to a team that's got a few more pieces around me where it's not going to be all on me. And if I underperform, all the fans are going to come at me. So yeah, the Giants. That's why it doesn't seem likely at all for them to get that deal done, unless they have a scenario where they could bring in like Correa and Dansby Swanson at the same time or something like that, or something like that, to where they can package a couple players together and sign them simultaneously. But who sees that happening?
Well, and
nobody.
You're looking at a hot market. I mean, guys are getting paid this offseason. You saw what Judge is going to get. Even like Wilson Contreras is getting 5 years, like 7.5 from the Cardinals. Justin Verlander's obviously getting 86, 87 for 2 years. Like, guys are getting paid. And the Giants have gained the reputation over the years of, hey, we'll bring in, like a reclamation project when it comes to arms, pitching, whatever. And maybe some role guys that happen to play in the field. And sometimes that's been working out. I mean, it's worked out, especially in the starting rotation over the last few years, especially with, like Alex Cobb had a pretty good year this last year. Obviously, Carlos Rodon, and now he's going to go out and get paid. Kevin Gausman a couple years ago, Tyler Anderson. So on the pitching side, like, there still could be some guys out there that the Giants maybe want to bring in for a year or two, and it could work out. But when we talk about bats, the Giants are absolutely going to have to overpay and give more years than maybe anybody else to get them to come here, especially with the current state of the roster and where it's at. And yeah, I mean, if they're going to bring in a star like Correa, it's probably going to take 12 to 13 years, and it's probably going to take, I would assume, maybe 330, 340 million plus. I really do think that.
What they have to do is they have to do exactly what the Texas Rangers did with Jacob deGrom. You got to break that seal. Like, you got to overpay. You have to show other free agents in the coming years, yes, you can do this here. But you have to get players like that in the door to do that for you. Yeah, the Giants have no problem doing that with pitching, because any full, I mean, you just named them: Cobb, Jacob Junis, guys can come in and pitch there. That's not a problem. They can get that. But with bats, you gotta start somewhere. Like, you gotta break that seal. And yeah, I just talked about DeGrom and the Rangers. Credit to the Rangers for doing that.
Yeah.
Because you gotta, if Jacob DeGrom goes in and kicks ass there in a in a bandbox, yeah, I mean, other top end guys are gonna think, oh, okay, well, if he can do it, I can do it too. I mean, that's how you get things moving. That's how you buck trends. Like, you got to overpay and start somewhere. And the Giants, for whatever reason, I'm not saying they haven't been trying, because I think they did try for Judge. I just think they got played hard, and they're just gonna have to try again here with Carlos Correa, and hopefully they can get it done. But until they do, man, the optimism just isn't. It's just not there for me.
Now let's move on to something that has happened. And last night the Giants were able to go out and get Mitch Haniger. Been an outfielder for the Mariners. He's 31 years old. He'll be 32 in a couple of weeks. Has obviously faced some injuries through his time, but a guy in Haniger, which not really great in the field, but man, when he's healthy, he's a really good bat, and something the Giants need. And they're showing it by giving him 3 years. I think it was like $43.5 million. That third year is an option, so 2 years for sure in San Francisco. His last full year, 2021, 157 games, 39 home runs, 100 RBIs, 122 OPS plus. He had a fantastic year last year in Seattle, which is not really known as a hitter's ballpark. That's kind of more of a pitcher's defensive park up there in the Pacific Northwest. Was banged up this year in 2022, 57 games, still hit 11 home runs, 34 RBIs. So the power is very much there. Like, Haniger can hit the ball out of the yard. Obviously, giving him nearly 15 a year shows us that this is probably going to be a guy that's going to get playing time most of the days, and his splits prove that. I mean, I had him up yesterday, not in front of me right now, but here we go. His career splits against right-handed pitching, he's a 255 hitter, 80 of his career home runs there, and then against lefties, significant amount less of plate appearances, but 277, 32 home runs. So he can hit against both sides pitching. So I like the overall addition of Mitch Haniger. Now, obviously, if he's going to be the big name that the Giants bring in this whole offseason, that's it, then alongside with qualifying offer from Jock Peterson, then yeah, it was probably a big letdown. But if, Mitch Haniger's maybe like the third biggest free agent you bring in this offseason, maybe fourth, okay, I'm all for it.
Sure.
Thoughts on Mitch Haniger from Mountain View?
Another local guy, just like Jock, and oh man, what could have been with our Linden boy. But anyways, yeah, it's interesting, how his contract's laid out. Yeah, he got a $6 million signing bonus. He's getting paid $5 million next year, $17 million in 2024. Then he has the opt out, but I don't know. He's slotted to make $15.5 million in 2025. We'll see how he does the next couple of years, but man, I mean, the Mitch Haniger I'm looking at right now, I don't think he's opting out of that contract. He's got $15 million waiting for him at the end of that contract.
Yeah, when he's 34, 35.
Yeah. Come on, dude. If he stays healthy and performs, maybe, but if not, but no, Mitch Haniger, like you said, kind of the same reason I liked Josh Bell in our Giants Chatter Most Wanted. Very, very split proof. He hits both arms pretty well. Injury history, yeah, it sucks. And I know he missed 57 games last year with his high ankle sprain, I believe. And then a couple years ago, he had that ruptured testicle. Which I mean, come on,
you don't wish that anyone.
I wish that on my worst enemies. so yeah, just battle through it, and it was, yeah. You really don't want this to end up being the guy that you roll out on at FanFest saying, "Oh, look who we got." Mitch Haniger is here, and buy your tickets now. Let's go. Yeah, that's not going to work. So hopefully, there's another bat or two waiting in the wings, because when this happened last night, there was strong speculation still that they were going to pair him with Judge, and that the Giants' plan all along going into free agency was to land two outfielders. So it was like, okay, well, there's one. Then even Susan Slessor, I'm not trying to pile on her, but she did that. Okay, well, there's one, and the next ... soon. So excited by Haniger. Always been a fan when he's healthy, but yeah, I think we're all going to need a little more than that.
Yeah, I agree. I asked this on Twitter today, and we'll wrap here, but obviously they missed out on Judge. But if the Giants were able to somehow get Correa in here, bring in Brandon Nimmo to go with, Jock Peterson, Haniger, and Yaz, in that mix in the outfield, and then they somehow, some way bring in like they bring back Rodon or bring in a Chris Bassett, pretty solid arm. Is this a successful offseason?
If they were to do that, if they were to get Brandon Nimmo
and Taylor Rogers, I'm sorry, I had Taylor Rogers in there as well too.
Okay,
so you added in that back end bullpen piece to complement Duvall. Sorry.
Wait.
Sorry.
So we got Haniger, and then the Giants bring in Nimmo, Rodon, and Taylor Rogers. Would that be a successful offseason? To me?
Yes.
No.
Really?
They need one of these shortstops badly.
Well, I said Correa.
Oh, did you? Oh, sorry.
I'm sorry. Yeah. No, listen. Let me.
Okay.
It was all over the place. Listen. Correa, Nimmo, Rodon or Bassett, and Taylor Rogers.
That would be amazing.
Right? I think that'd be a damn good offseason.
There's no chance in hell that happens, but yeah, that would be great.
Probably not. They could afford it though.
They could afford it. I would say I would be okay if they were to get Correa, Rodon, and Taylor Rogers. I'd take those three. That would be okay.
Rodon for 6 years?
No.
Not thrilled. Thrilled, but it may be what it takes. 5,
and you pay him more money.
I would pay him more per year to cement it at 5 because I think you agree with me. We're in regards to Carlos Rodon, we're not really thrilled with 5 years anyways because the guy just got through his first full season in his career, and so yeah, I mean that would be 6 or 7 years, which is sounding like he may be asking for that. Woo, man, but I don't know.
You got to look at it though. If I was a Rangers fan, I wouldn't be thrilled with 5 years of DeGrom, but I'm so happy we got DeGrom. I don't care.
But that's the difference between Jacob DeGrom, and we've had this debate a few weeks ago on Twitter. The difference between Jacob DeGrom and Carlos Rodon is Jacob DeGrom, when he's healthy, is arguably the best pitcher in baseball. Yes. Rodon has had one full, complete, all-star, great level season. When DeGrom is coming off an injury and he's still not, even 100%, you're still going to get damn good elite stuff from him. So over the next 5 years, if Jacob DeGrom is only healthy for 3.5 of those, it's worth it. If you have a 3.5 out of 5 years healthy worth of Rodon, you don't know because Rodon has had bad seasons. Jacob DeGrom has never had a bad season.
No.
He has. So.
No, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like you don't love the years, but you can live with the years when you're getting that type of production. And honestly, if somebody out there gives Rodon with his injury history 6 or 7 years, when DeGrom himself only got 5, that would be some crazy shit. And would I be happy if he comes back to be and still a Giant? Absolutely, I'll be happy. But man, like that's dicey. That is Russian roulette right there.
For sure. Hey, it was good to be back on. We're pushing through these episodes. I'm sure we'll be back on again this next week, or if something huge happens, we'll be back on in the next couple of days, of course. If you want to listen to our full episode, if you're new, first of all, welcome. But yeah, if you want to listen to our full episode of where we really dive into why Aaron Judge wasn't coming, and I know in a day or so, like this is still going to sting, but we're going to want to move on from it. So make sure you do it quick. Go back, Believe.com, or wherever you get your podcast, episode 85, The Aaron Judge Dilemma, where Rob and I got it right. So
not proud of it.
Not proud of it, but hey, you're either right or you're happy. So we're right. Hey, so thanks for joining us. And of course, until next time, say hey, Doug, and say hey, Rob. I feel like the Giants just got swept. Go Giants.
Go Giants. Sign somebody.
Say hey, say who, say Willie, say hey, say who, swinging at the plate, say hey, say who, say Willie.